What is happening, everybody? My name's Bright Life. This is my fancy shirt. This is my very messy room because I've been spending a lot of my time playing the new Lord of the Rings Online, a mini expansion Before the Shadow, and man, it has been a great time. I wanted to go on ahead and jump on, give you my quick impressions of the Before the Shadow expansion. I have not currently had the chance to play through the entirety of it. However, I have had a really good look at least the first probably 10 or 15 hours of this expansion by my estimation, and it's really been a lot of fun. I think that this is a great move by LOTRO overall strategically. I think that this game has a lot still to build into it, but this is a great first step in my opinion. However, I do have one con that I want to mention at the end, as well as maybe a future suggestion for the devs as they look into this. So let's kind of jump into what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, for the pros, the first one is this world is full of people, and I personally love that. I personally play MMORPGs because I really enjoy being able to be around other folks. It's cool to see people questing in a zone next to you, running story content, doing skirmishes, doing raids, doing instances next to you. It's a really cool experience to know that you're just one person in a vast world full of people. My favorite thing about MMOs, and right now it is LOTRO season. There are just so many people playing this game. There was a little bit of lag to be had because of the amount of people. That's kind of to be expected for Lord of the Rings Online's engine. However, I will just say I saw more people in the world than I'd ever seen in the past. I had a lot of fun interactions seeing both high-level players and people that had just decided to roll new tunes up into the brand new regions of Swanfleet and Cardolan. It was just cool to see this place really full of people. And again, that's just one of those big pros. I think that the Steam charts show that Lord of the Rings Online has seen a large bump in players, which is a great thing as well. But I really enjoy seeing that many people on LOTRO. So that's one huge pro. Right now is the time to jump in if you're going to in Before the Shadow, just because there's a lot of people to see. All right, secondly, let's talk about these new zones. They're gorgeous. I had the chance to look through these new zones before. If you've seen my recent video on the new zones, just kind of taking a look at them, kind of walking through them. I actually managed to do this on the player test realm Bull Roar before, but actually being able to quest through the new zones, it really brings it into a new light, a new focus. The lore in these zones are great. The views, the vistas, they just know that they've got that going for them. And it's really cool to see. I found myself just falling in love with the zones all over again. I think especially Swanfleet has one of the best looking zones in the game so far, in my opinion. And I think that this is the perfect starting player experience for a new player. If they're willing to spend that $20 to get that new player experience, I think it's completely worth it because it just looks great. The vistas are fantastic. The lore is great in the zone, like I said before. I just think they look absolutely wonderful. All right, and that kind of brings me into the questing in the zones. And I just got to tell you once again, you guys, Standing Stone Games absolutely knocked it out of the park with the quests in this zone. And we're not really talking about the main story quests here. I just kind of want to talk about those side quests that you're going to be doing as you level up. I just got to tell you, they went above and beyond. It's kind of cool to see them get like cheeky and have like a little bit of fun with the quests that they have. There are multiple little Easter eggs all throughout the experience to things like Star Wars and one of the ends of the quest. The Witcher, like literally one of the people that you meet is Geralt and he loses a boot, which is one of the Witcher quests in one of those games. There's also great references to Skyrim with one of the people saying that he took an arrow to the knee at one point. It just shows you that in Lord of the Rings Online, there's such a treasure trove of fun and cool stuff to see if you decide to just go on ahead and slow down, read the quest text, and just enjoy it. Every single quest text seems to have some sort of personality to it. It seems like people are really enjoying themselves in the game, and it seems like the world is really alive with the NPCs and the stories that they tell. So again, massive thumbs up to Standing Stone Games on that one. I really love seeing that right now. Now, the next thing that actually really surprised me was the amount of voice acting that actually is happening in this game now. You see, if you play through Shadows of Angmar, you really won't get a lot of voice acting at all, except for some cutscenes between some of the main story quest missions. But in this one, you're actually getting quite a bit of voice acting. Now, it's not everything. There's still a lot of room to read the quest text, which is what I like to do with my accents on stream, link in the description. But for a lot of them, they do have some really cool lines. A lot of the voice acting is really well done. Boromir's voice acting is really well done, all the way to the dwarves, to the children. It's just really cool in this game. And so I love that. It's a quality of life thing that's really beautiful and really well done. But it kind of brings me into another pro, which is the main story so far. I've just got to put this out there. The main story has been wonderful in Before the Shadow, and I think that the story is worth the $20 alone. I think that Lord of the Rings Online has, in my opinion, done the best job of any game out there of creating a Lord of the Rings adaptation that actually makes sense, that is lore sensitive, that really works the lore, really honors the professor's work, but at the same time takes the liberties that it needs to take to, flesh the story out to a playable scale. You get to see so many different races of, dwarves, hobbits, men, elves, all throughout these new zones, all of them interacting together in Boromir's story as he moves into Rivendell from Gondor in kind of the Fellowship of the Ring time. It's just really well done. It's really well put together. There's lots of humor in it. There's lots of kind of intrigue, and you're wondering, I'm not going to spoil any of it, but then it's just great. It is really, really good. And again, I think SSG does a phenomenal job always of telling a good story. And so again, they do it again, and it's absolutely amazing to see. Another thing that I found to be really positive in the Before the Shadow expansion has been the music. There's brand new music all throughout the Before the Shadow expansion, from the character selection screen all the way through these new regions and zones, and I've just got to say, again, they knock it out of the park. It's the stuff that they've already done such a great job at. They're making it much more accessible and available to a brand new player, and it's kind of bringing the game into that 2022 kind of vibe, where there's a lot of MMOs that have come up and have built themselves up to be great things over the last couple of years, and it's cool to see LOTRO kind of catching up with the times in this one. The new starting experience is great. It's very accessible. The music sounds fantastic. It really fits the theme. The story is great. Voice acting, even little quality of life things that are out there are great as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I've just got to tell you, the music in these zones are great. Unfortunately, I can't play any of them without getting copyright striked on my video, but just trust me, turn those earphones up whenever you're playing this game. Actually give yourself a chance to listen to this music, because it really goes above and beyond, in my opinion, as it always does. I mean, Lord of the Rings Online literally won Game Awards for its music. It just continues that. And so extremely well done with the music. Way to go, SSG. I think the other things that are really cool are the quest trackers and the mounted quest advancement systems. These are two quality of life things that I've noticed that are really helpful. The first one is, now the quest tracker has expanded from 5 quests to 10 quests. It really allows you to go through these regions where typically you're picking up between 7 and 8 quests per hub. It allows you to see all of them at once, and it's really helpful. I didn't realize how helpful this would be until I actually utilized it, and now that I'm actually questing through the zones, I don't know how I ever could really stand the 5 quest tracker before, and I think this carries on, of course, throughout the entire game, not just this first starting experience. And the quest tracker, in my opinion, just it comes as a breath of fresh air. I think it's really well put together, really well done. The other thing that I've really liked is the mounted quest advancement system. Before, in Lord of the Rings Online, when you would have to go, let's say, pick 10 berries from a bush, you would have to ride up there with your horse and then get off your horse, pick the berry, then remount. And that's not the case anymore. It's a very subtle change, but now whenever you ride up to a bush, you just, as you're on the mount, you can go on ahead and pick that berry and then move on to the next one. It allows for the questing experience to be a lot more fluid. It's a lot less chopped feeling, which is really nice, and I really appreciate that about this. And again, it's something that they've really added into the experience that's made it a lot better. Now, before we go into the cons, I want to talk just really quickly about the strategic place of this expansion. I think within the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully, of SSG's plan. Now, what you'll notice is that I didn't say anywhere that there was a graphics update or a lag fix in this one. And that's not really meant to have been the Before the Shadows expansion features. They never claimed that would be that, but a lot of people are still wondering, like, when is this happening? When is this coming? Well, I had a great experience talking with a good friend of mine. His name's Bloodborne. He's over on Twitch all the time, typically streams at night, and he's a great streamer. And we had a great time talking about the future of Lord of the Rings Online. I'm actually going to post that like kind of interview style. It's going to be a longer format a little bit later this week, so keep your eye out for that on the YouTube channel. But we talked about how strategically this is almost like Lord of the Rings Online starting fresh in kind of a way, right? Like it's allowing us to have a great new player experience, and then hopefully over the next couple years we get a good mid game and we get a good end game. And my hope is that with that will come some sort of overhaul to graphics, some sort of overhaul to lag. My sneaking and very strong suspicion is, based on what SSG, the company that runs LOTRO, they have a parent company called Global Enad 7, and they've come out and made 3 really big promises. 1 is lag fixes, 2 is a graphics update, and then 3 is a console release. I think that all of those things can only happen with a big migration of game engines. So essentially the old game engine that's built on, my guess is that Global Enad 7 right now is really trying to eventually make LOTRO go from game engine A, which is laggy and buggy and really not very capable, over to game engine B, which would be more up to the 2022 standard that you and I are used to in games. And so that is not what this expansion is meant to be. But as I'm seeing how this game strategically fits in the hopefully long-term plan of Lord of the Rings Online, which I would hope would include things like PvP arenas, maybe a level squish, and things that we all want, which is lag fixing and a graphics update, I think all of that's going to come with a, essentially a game engine upgrade that would then at some point, they'd have to have a couple days of downtime to migrate the game to that new system. That's my hope, and I'm hoping that that's where this all falls. But just for those of you that are wondering that, like, how do those feel in the first impressions? There is still lag for sure. There are some new assets, but the game is still older. This certainly isn't solving those issues, but I did find the pros really outweighed any of those like potential cons in that space. And I just really think that I would give this one a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10 right now. I think it really is worth your money. I think if you love Lord of the Rings Online, if you've been thinking about coming back, you should purchase this game. I think it's near perfect. I haven't seen anything in it yet that I'm like, this is terrible. There's little bugs and little things like, some quest level balancing throughout the zones that can be a little strange. Sometimes you'll go into a quest hub and there will be a quest for a level 5 and one for a level 10, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense with how the map flows sometimes, but those are just little things. They're really not that big. Again, I would give this game right now like a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. I think they've absolutely knocked it out of the park. Now, I do want to talk about my one big con with Before the Shadow, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with any of the gameplay features itself, but it has to do with kind of the world around Lord of the Rings Online. And I know that this is probably going to be a section where in the timestamps below, as I talk about like the big con or whatever, this is probably going to be a little bit of a longer section. And I hope that does not outweigh for you all the pros that this game has, because I think it's amazing. It's a great mini expansion. But I think this con to me is one that I want to just put out there so that maybe eventually the devs can see it, hopefully. And then I'd love to offer a solution as well, because I think that it's only fair that if you're going to put out a con, like offer a solution as well. And I think the big con is with the timing of this mini expansion. The mini expansion, unfortunately, decided to release. Unfortunately, with what they decided to do, they decided to release it on November 9th, and then they decided to push it by a week, which fully understandable. We're all human. Sometimes things gotta get delayed. I'm not mad at them for that. To November 15th. Now, if you don't know, in the wider world of MMORPGs, November 15th is the day that the World of Warcraft pre-patch goes live before World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Now, I know that you guys that are hardcore LOTRO fans here are gonna go, I don't give a crap about World of Warcraft, I'll never play WoW, and that's completely fine. I think that if the purpose of this game was to make current LOTRO players buy the expansion, I think they've done a great job with that. But I think that you and I probably both know that the purpose of any new expansion, or mini expansion as they call it, that they're going to kind of hang their game on for the next year until the next expansion comes out, has got to be to attract new players, and a large amount of new players. That's really what expansions are for, or even returning players. And unfortunately, in my opinion, World of Warcraft has seasons, and we kind of call them WoW seasons every 2 or 3 years. I think that we're in WoW season right now. It's that 3 months after, it's that 3 to 6 months surrounding a WoW expansion, the month that it releases all the way through typically like, February or March, where just WoW is the game because it's the big one. They've released their new thing. Everybody's playing through it. They're doing the raids. They're doing all that. And to release your game on the day of the pre-patch for a next World of Warcraft expansion is bold to say the least. And I think unfortunately what happens at the end of the day is Lord of the Rings Online, as great as Before the Shadow is, I think it's just going to get buried amidst all the World of Warcraft hype right now. And I wish that it wouldn't, because it's a great mini expansion. I think that if really 99% of MMO players came and tried this one out, they would genuinely stick with Lord of the Rings Online. I think Before the Shadow really does it that well, but it's been buried in kind of the press around World of Warcraft. And just to kind of paint an example picture that really helps me. Motorola recently put out a brand new phone. It was called like the Razr X or reimagined or whatever it was. And what it was is it was a smartphone version of the Motorola Razr that you and I had when we were like in middle school. We used to text, with like the 1 through 0 keys and stuff like that. It was like the cool phone, and they came out with this cool new phone, and it was certainly decently well received. But this is kind of akin to, imagine if Motorola had decided to release their phone on the day of Apple's new iPhone 17 announcement. Whenever that announcement is, when, all the tech YouTubers go out and they try it out and they post videos about it. It doesn't matter how good your phone is. If you release it on the day of the new iPhone announcement, you're going to get buried in the press. You're not going to get seen by the people that really do need to see your phone, those kind of on the fence folks, because now they're really excited about this new product from Apple, even though this product over here may actually be better than an iPhone. All people are really talking about is this. And so in my opinion, I think it would have been really great. And again, I understand production schedule and all that stuff. It just would have been really cool if somehow they could have moved this thing back to like mid-October. I think that would have really allowed them to hit the Rings of Power hype that did exist, whether or not you believed it was a good show or not. It would allow them to avoid WoW season. It would allow them to kind of bring in some of those kind of wandering MMO folks that in October are kind of waiting for that next thing. I just wish that they would have been able to do that. So it's almost like the perfect expansion at the wrong time, in my opinion. And so I still think it's a great expansion. I mean, the good news around all of that, in my opinion, is that good quality products last beyond hype. That is true. I think that Swanfleet, Cardalin, I think the music, the world being full of people, I think that the zones, the story, the quests, all the things that we just talked about, I think that will outlast the WoW hype, in my opinion. I do think it will. However, I think it would have grown the game a lot quicker, and it would have given us a lot better experience of a game if they had been able to release it like a month before they did, because I think it just would have made sense with all the stuff that was going on. Now, I did promise you guys that if I'm going to throw that con out there, that I've got maybe a suggestion for the future for SSG. And again, in the comments below, I'd love to hear your suggestions, but also, do you like this suggestion? And it's to actually utilize those dedicated players and content creators that you have. I have found in my time on Twitch and here on YouTube that there are some incredible content creators who are much better at this than I am, that are much better streamers and video creators than I am, that have such an eye for this game, and they understand their crowd, because that's kind of how they get to where they are, is they have to know their audience and know what they want to hear and what they're interested in. It would be really cool if SSG could put together maybe a council of like 3 to 10 to 15 content creators that love Lord of the Rings Online, that want Lord of the Rings Online to succeed, because obviously if LOTRO is successful, they will be more successful. And then just ask them questions about the release date, about the features, about the things that they should add to the next expansion, make them sign NDAs and all that stuff, but then allow the content creators to speak into this. Because I know for me personally, I do play Lord of the Rings Online primarily, but I also play games like World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, New World, and I love all of those games in their own way. And I think that if I was sitting on a council and they said, hey, Bright, we're thinking of releasing this on November 9th, I would have stood up and been like, no, like whatever you can do, release it 2 weeks earlier so that you can get as many people in here as possible. I think that would have been really cool. Now, I still think they put together a great expansion, and they certainly don't need someone dumb like me, but if you've got great people like Bloodborne, Louis7, Rescue Fat, you've got all of these incredible, content creators, Green-Eyed Gamer Girl, and so many more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head because, I'm an idiot. I don't think I would need to be on that, but it would be cool to see something like that where these content creators that really know not only LOTRO but other games as well could just speak into the games. I think that would have maybe helped them avoid this bad timing issue. Maybe. Again, development schedules and the amount of staff you have, all of that stuff matters, of course, but I just think maybe that would help in the future. But hey, if it does or if it doesn't, that's all good. But this is already way too long for a first impressions video. I appreciate every single one of you guys watching to the end. Be sure to stay tuned for both the kind of Bloodborne conversation that I had, and in the next week or so, I am hoping to put out a more full review for Before the Shadow, actually giving you guys the full, everything from top to bottom, maybe finding some more pros, some more cons, allowing me to finish out the story and all that stuff. So be sure to be subscribed to the channel for that. That would be really helpful for me. But friends, really, if you like the video, please leave it a like. It lets more LOTRO players see this kind of a video. If you love the video, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me know to make more videos just like this. As always, I want to say a massive thank you to our patrons who make this channel possible. You guys help me not only survive in this content creation world, but thrive. And so thank you guys so very much. But friends, as always, the last two things that I say are the most important things that I could possibly say in any video ever. And it's this: that you are more loved than you know, and you are so much more valuable than you realize. I hope you have an incredible day, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to let you know a couple ways to connect with me. First of all, we got an awesome Discord in the description. We've got a Patreon if you'd like to give to the channel and help support more video creation. And I am live on Twitch quite often over at twitch.tv/brightlifecommunity. Would love to see you there. Always love interacting on those live video streams. But I hope you have an incredible day, my loved and valued friend. Have an awesome one.